Greetings, everyone. This is I'm Right.
I'm right.
And I'm Jill Cox Cordova.
I'm Anthony Cordova.
What up?
You mean what's up? I'll tell you what's up. I'll tell you what's
Not
up.
what's up.
What
up?
is up? I'll tell you. Listeners, this is what's up. For the first time in many, 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 many weeks, I got Jill to leave the house with me. She actually put on clothes.
I put on clothes every day. Thank you.
She put on clothes.
I put on clothes every
where
day.
she would look presentable. And she came out with me and we ran errands.
Yes, I put on a little cute little dress. I even put on a little bit of makeup and some sandals. I even polished my toenails. Like, I went all out for our little errands.
I'm glad because I'm trying to keep you from becoming a hermit.
I don't see anything wrong with being a hermit.
No, hermit, no good.
I talk to people every day. It's not like I'm all alone.
No good. Hermit, no good.
It's not like I'm all alone. We're not the only ones who live in this house, A. And B, I have jobs where I talk to people every single day. And some of them see me.
Again,
because we do Zoom meetings.
Hermit,
but I don't feel the need to leave the house that often.
Hermit, no good. Remember that.
That's not even proper English.
Hermit, no good. No good, hermit, no good.
That's not proper English.
Doesn't matter.
It does matter. I'm an English professor.
You'll remember this. Being hermit, no good. No good to be a hermit.
Anyway, shall we move on to our topic for this week?
We should get this episode started.
Yes.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Topic. This week's topic is, it's kind of appropriate, when you're not on the same page. It's part of a segment that we call
Stand by Your Stance.
So we were definitely not on the same page today.
I thought we were.
Clearly.
I thought we were.
Well, first of all, yes, I did leave the house, but you had to talk me into it, number one. So we were not on the same page as to why in the world would I have to leave the house?
You did, because I asked you. I needed
That's
your
why
help.
I went, because you asked me nicely.
So, but I don't, that's not what this episode is about. Isn't it more about things where with your partner that you're really not on the same page? Like things
we really weren't on the same page for that.
Things, well, we got on the same page because you came with me. But aren't these things
because I gave
more
in.
like
I compromised.
Actually,
I just gave in. There was no compromise.
Okay. More like you're dating someone. You're dating and everything is great. You've been dating for a year now and everything is great and wonderful. And you decide to get married and you're getting married. And then one person says to the other, doesn't matter which, but they say, well, when are we going to have kids? And the other person says, but I don't want any children.
Well, shouldn't you have had that conversation before you got married?
They should have, but this is an example of them not being on the same page.
Well, that's a big one.
Because that
can be a deal breaker.
But there are many things that people do in their lives and when they're in relationships where they are not on the same page, but either maybe one person overlooks it, another person doesn't vocalize that they're on the same page.
Well, then wouldn't that be their problem? Because if the other person doesn't know,
this is why we're having this episode, because it's a problem when people are not on the same page. As a couple, I'm not saying a couple has to agree about everything, because we sure don't.
Clearly,
but they have. Well, like for instance, you and I can have these discussions on things we disagree about.
Sure.
Okay. Which isn't a problem. We're on the same page because we agree to have discussions where we disagree. Yes.
We agree to disagree.
That we can disagree.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're on the same page. We know we can have these kind of discussions. Yes. But there's other people that they don't want to have the type of discussions that we have. and they may not, and they may always avoid certain conversations when they're not on the same page. So,
well, I can understand, especially it seems like we're talking about people who, or right now we're talking about people who tend to avoid conflict, or they're afraid maybe to bring something up that they're not sure what the other person thinks about that topic. So therefore they keep putting off having that discussion. I don't think you and I have ever been that way. I can think of one time,
I
but
could
when we
think
were
of
dating,
sometimes,
well, I can think of, okay,
even now.
okay, I'll tell you my example and then you tell me yours. How about that?
Okay.
So, because mine was when we were still dating.
Okay.
I had 2 dogs when we were dating.
Yeah.
And I had to go out of town. The listeners may have heard
They know
this
the
story.
story,
Okay,
yes.
so I had to go out of town. And when I came back, at least one of my dogs was quite changed.
Yes.
Would not listen to me at all.
Yes.
And seemed to be your dog.
Yes.
After one weekend.
Yes.
And you didn't even want to take care of her. Which I brought up to her every now and then when she seemed to favor you over me, that at least I got her out of the pound and you didn't even want to take care of her that weekend.
Okay. Get to the point.
The point is that we were not on the same page, or actually, now that I'm talking this out, maybe the dog wasn't on the same page with me because the dog thought she was your dog.
See, that's a horrible example.
It is. Now that I think about it. But we didn't agree on what the dogs should be able to do.
Horrible example.
We weren't on the same page with what the dogs could and could not do.
A better example.
Okay, that was a bad example. I admit that. Go ahead. Now that I think about it, the dog was just against me. But go ahead.
So, a thing of not being on, I have several examples.
Oh boy.
Of us not being on the same page.
Oh no.
So maybe
we should have discussed this first.
One of my favorite vacations.
Oh, okay. I know where you're going with this one. We still disagree on this one.
Edisto Island.
The listeners have heard this story too, I think.
Yes, and it's you can ride your bike everywhere, and at the time I was an avid bike rider, so you could ride your bike everywhere. So I got a bike for Jill, fixed it up for her. She says, "Yes,
I looked the part. It was purple,
yeah,
my favorite color.
That's right.
I had the cute little helmet and everything. I looked the part."
Yes, but so we went on this vacation, and Jill rode at least 19 miles.
It was 18
that weekend,
to be exact.
And I had a wonderful time. It was like the best ever.
I never want to do that ever again in my life. I will go with you to Edisto. I didn't have a problem with the location or the resort, but in terms of activity, I never want to do that again in my whole life.
So we weren't on the same page.
Still not. Because you still bring up that you would like to do that again.
But you did it with me. I'm glad you did
it
but we're not on the same page.
Jill gave in.
And here's another example. Listeners, I told Jill, because when we retire, if we end up being on a limited income, I have several relatives that have different properties around the country. And so I said, well, Jill, we can go to the house in Emory, Texas, which is on a lake, and we can go there and stay for a month, and it'll be really nice. And I can go fishing. We
were never going to do that.
You can write, and see, we're not on the same page.
No, we're not on that.
And it just breaks my heart. Breaks
here's the thing about me.
We can't get on the same page with this.
Here's the thing about me.
With both of those earrings.
Thank you.
Nice earrings. Okay, with both of those.
You just noticed my earrings today?
Yes, I did. Nice.
Okay.
Earrings.
Well, here's the thing about me, sweetheart, and maybe it's the case for many of our listeners. I will, if someone really wants to do something, and I love you, so when you really want to do something, and I've not done it before, I'll at least do it once just to make you happy and to try it. I will try new things. That's the thing about me. I will do it once. And if I like it, I'll continue to do it. So, for example, when we were dating, you were you loved to camp. I think you still do. You just haven't done it in a long time.
You won't let me because we're not on the same page.
Oh, no. This one changed. This one changed. Initially, you were like, oh, we should go camping. I'm like, why would I do that? I lived in a national park for 12 years. That's like camping, except it was my home. So why would I go camping where I actually lived in a house before? And so to be in a tent seems like I'm going backwards to me. So I didn't see the point of camping because of my previous experience of living in a national park. However, you were like, well, I'm going to go this particular weekend. And if you can just, come out, assess the situation, and you don't have to stay if you don't want to, but that's where I will be. So after traveling through Deliverance by your directions, it was like going through Deliverance.
Yeah.
After traveling to get there, I assessed the situation, and I was amazed that you were more of you did have a tent, but you're more of a glamper because you had the ability to make my favorite food, which is French fries. So you made French fries, you had a TV, you had all of the comforts of home at your campsite. So I thought, oh,
and a boat.
And a boat.
And a
yes.
boat. Yes.
And I thought, oh, you didn't tell me you would have the comforts of home here. So now I like to camp with you. We haven't done it in a long time. And not because I don't want to go. It's been a very long time. Yes. But mainly because of time, we haven't gone. And now the world is different.
Let's blame it on the podcast. The podcast keeps us from camping.
That is not true. That's not true.
This is what I sacrifice for our listeners.
No, it took you a while to put up your campsite, and as you got older, you didn't want to do it anymore. And then we got, the idea to elevate what our how we would camp. So now we're both like, we need an RV, but we haven't bought that.
You're getting off topic.
No, but my point is, I tried it, and that I liked. But Edisto, I tried it to make you happy, and it's just something I will not do again. And then the Emory example, that was just, I went several times with you to Emory because I always knew there was an end date that was going to come up. That was going to come up very soon.
A month.
So no. The few times I went with you, we were there for like 4 days, and that's plenty of time. That's more than enough time to have stayed there. So a month, I cannot imagine. I just can't do that.
So let's.
So for the listeners, try it to make your partner happy, and at least you could honestly say whether you will do it again or not.
Okay, so when I'm still thinking about not being on the same page, you mentioned earlier that some things are deal breakers. So not being on the same page, some things can be deal breakers.
Yes.
What types of things are those?
Well, you brought the perfect example up. You did not want more kids.
Mm-hmm. And you hadn't had any.
And I hadn't had any of my own. So that could have been a deal breaker for both of us if you had wanted kids, because I really didn't want to give birth to anybody. I still don't. Well, now I can't. But anyway, that could have been a deal breaker on either end.
Okay. What are other things? Doesn't necessarily have to do with something we've been through, but what are other things that you could see as deal breakers, or things where in a relationship you really need to be on the same page?
Well, I think people need to be on the same page. You and I have joked about it, but I've always been a dreamer, a creative person. Creative people tend to be dreamers more than realists.
Doggone dreamers.
And so you have joked with me that I turned you into a dreamer. I really didn't, because you always had that creative side. Maybe I brought it to your attention that you are a creative person. But I didn't turn you into a dreamer. But sometimes it could be a deal breaker for people if one is like really, really, really a dreamer and a creative person, and the other one just doesn't understand that. So in their mind, you're just play. You're not really working. So it would be a deal breaker for me if I had married someone that didn't support my creative side, because that's who I am. So if you told me to go out and get an analytical kind of job, that just would not work.
So, but let's still take that scenario you're talking about. So let's say there's two people, and let's say one is creative and the other one is strictly analytical. They don't see the sense of art in any of this.
Yeah, they think it's play.
So they're not on the same page with that. They have the different views on that.
Yes.
But can those same people still get on the same page by agreeing that they disagree about what's important?
Absolutely. Because I think for an analytical person, I don't want to speak for analytical people because I'm not an analytical person. But it seems to me, with the analytical people I've met, it seems to me they just want, the practical, realistic side of life, which is that when you're an adult, you have to find some way to make money and live whatever lifestyle you choose, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for an analytical person, if they're in a relationship with a creative person and the analytical person makes a lot more money than the creative person, which is usually the case, as long as that creative person does have a job that brings in income, and I think for an analytical person, they really want that steady income as opposed to the starving artist, I'll get paid when I get paid kind of situation, then you could work together, and maybe the creative person could still have a job where they get regularly paid that still allows them to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you manage that, like, oh, I'm working, but on the side, I really want to be a novelist or something that's not paying you right now because you haven't finished your book, something like that, then I think that the analytical person still might give the creative person a side eye when they're working on their book, but at least they're still bringing in income. So they're like, okay, I'll let you play today and let you write.
let you
yeah,
play.
You could play on your playground today. It's okay.
But wouldn't that make the artsy person kind of feel a certain way if that was the attitude of...
Well, most creative people I know that haven't made it with whatever that creative dream is yet, most of them will be like, you'll see, and they may not say it to the analytical person, but they say it to their creative circle. Like, one day when I make big bucks, you'll see, although most of the time, realistically, that book may not be a bestseller, but, it might bring some additional income in. It might be another stream of income, which would make the analytical person happy too. So the most creative people have this. You'll see.
So what I'm gathering is, when you came up with this episode title, or subject, I was thinking not being on the same page is probably a bad thing for a relationship. But maybe it's not a bad thing as long as the two people involved discuss it.
Yes, it's all about the way that agreement. It's not a good thing is if you never discuss it, if you don't communicate, and you on both sides, then things will just fester until one day, they erupt because, you drop something, that, and they just erupt because it's been festering all this time, But for us, it's not, we're we have an episode, we have a podcast that every single week we are not on the same page. But
We're
because
always on the same page. I don't know
no,
what you're talking about.
mm-mm.
I agree with everything you say, Jill. Everything. Say something. Watch. Say anything. Anything you want.
No, I'm not gonna put. No,
Say
I'm not.
anything.
You don't agree with
I
everything I
agree.
say.
I do.
You don't.
I agree with that.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
You agree with me that we don't agree? Is that what you're saying?
That's what you're saying.
So you're agreeing that we don't agree.
That's what you're saying. I agree with you. Say something. I agree with you all the time.
All right. Do you agree that my car needs new cup holders?
Yes.
Do you agree that my car needs cup holders before you do something to the house?
Yes.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Yes,
we are not on the same page
We're on the same
as
page.
to my cup holders.
I agree
my
with
specialized cup holders.
Your cup holder is it's only the passenger side cup holder. It's very important to you when
it
you ride
is
on
very
the passenger
important.
Side.
It is.
Yes.
Come to think of it, I think you may have broken it.
I didn't break it.
I think you did.
I never,
because it worked when we first got the car.
I never used those cup holders.
Yeah, I think you did.
Even the one on the driver's
You said,
side.
I don't like it. And you broke it.
That is the only thing I do not like about that car is the cup holders.
So why don't you change them?
No, they're not going to change them. Just going to put another one in that's exactly the same.
But why don't you get something that's different?
They don't have something different.
Well, that sits in the window, like, old time.
No, see how holders. We do agree on that.
We don't agree. You keep telling me no.
I agree.
We don't agree. You were saying no. You said no. Listeners,
we're on.
Am I right on this?
We are on the same.
Please vote
all the time.
We are not. That's why we have a podcast called I'm Right.
I'm Right.
See, you just disagreed.
No, I didn't.
You disagreed. No.
You told me to say that.
I didn't.
Puppet master.
You were all... No. We've already discussed that I am not your puppet master.
Okay. So, yeah. 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 Yeah.
What is wrong with you today? Something is clearly wrong.
Earlier, you told me that I'm all over the place.
You are. You have been all over the place all day today.
I guess it's that kind of day.
Well, stop it.
No.
Change it into a different kind of day.
Maybe on the next episode. Can't switch up midstream.
Sure you can.
You can
switch up any moment.
Look, we need to be on the same page on this, Jill.
But we're not.
Okay, we need to be. Okay.
Our episode is called When You're Not on the Same Page. And we're not at this moment.
Okay, so getting back to being on the same page.
So now you're saying we are on the same page? You are all over the place.
It is very... Would you say that in a relationship, it is very important for the people involved to be on the same page?
No, you don't have to be on the same page.
You just need to communicate. This?
We did.
I was just checking. I was just checking.
You do not have to be on the same page, but you do need to communicate. Okay. That's what we said.
So being on the same page is all about communication. Is that correct?
In both cases, it's all about communication. If you're on the same page, you have communicated that.
Right.
If you're not on the same page, you need to communicate.
Thank you.
Let's get to our second segment.
I feel like I'm on the therapy couch today.
I am not your therapist. I'm not anybody's therapist.
That's what you think.
I'm not. Let's get to our second segment that we call
Give It a Rest and a Resolution.
Again, I am not anyone's therapist. So what's your stance on this? What's your conclusion?
I don't know.
I just combined segments.
You did.
What's your conclusion resolution? That's what I meant to say.
What is a conclusion resolution?
Well, now that we have discussed this, Now that we have discussed this topic,
Yes.
do you still have the same conclusion
As
on
when?
this topic?
No.
You changed your mind again? See, you are all
No,
over
no,
the
no, no,
place.
no. Well, it's like I said earlier. When we went into this, I was thinking that not being on the same page was a bad thing for a relationship, but not necessarily. So that's my conclusion. Not necessarily if you talk about the thing you're not on the same page about.
Well, my conclusion is that I must have just changed your mind with all that I said. Because my conclusion is that as long as you communicate, it doesn't matter whether you're on the same page or not.
Isn't that what I just said?
No.
It is.
You said it differently.
Play it
and I
back.
changed your mind.
Play it back.
I changed your mind. That's my conclusion. Let's get to our third segment that we call
I'm trying to help you.
Do you have any advice?
My advice. What's your advice?
Are you stalling again because you don't have any advice?
What's your advice?
My advice is if you're in a relationship with someone and you just can't agree on something, understand that it's okay as long as you talk it out. If the other person, if it's a deal breaker though, you need to, as you would say, run.
Run.
Yes. If it's a deal breaker,
Forrest,
there's no
run.
need to stay. I know that's
Yeah.
harder to do
But a person
if
will
you
be
really love someone.
happier in the
But
long run.
yes, in the end, you have to do that.
Yeah.
Don't think you can change someone's mind about having a baby. I know people like that. It did not work out for them.
No, I think you've that's I agree.
No, this isn't the part where you're supposed to agree
I'm
or disagree.
sorry, but
You
I
have to
do-
give advice.
My advice is the same as your advice. That's my advice.
That might be a first for this podcast.
No, it's not.
I think it is. I think it's
Remember?
the first time you've ever said, I just agree with you. I don't have any advice. You've never said that before.
Yes, I have. It was in season 1, episode 23.
You don't know. You don't know this.
That's what it
Listeners,
was.
he's making things
Season
up.
1, episode 23.
You are making
That's
things
when
up.
it was.
What was that topic?
Check.
Episode 23.
I remember the numbers of the episodes.
What
I
was
don't
the topic?
remember the topics.
Oh, you're making stuff up. So, again, you have no advice?
No, I don't have any advice today. No,
Okay.
no tips. None.
Okay. Well,
None. Audience, you're on your own. I'll be back next episode to give a really
Maybe.
good tip.
at this rate, I don't know. Okay, well, then let's get to our last segment that we call.
So, what do you think?
What do you think? Because I'm right.
Because I'm right.
So we want to know, listeners, what you think.
Yeah, I just realized we haven't given the phone number for the voice
not
box
once.
the
Nope.
whole time. But we are going to do that.
And that number is 404-594-2247. What's that number?
Yeah, that number is 404-594-2247.
And again, so you can either say who's right on this episode. Well, actually, I guess not on this episode because you agreed with me. You said everything. You just repeated everything I said this whole episode.
Because we're on the same page.
Well, we got to that point.
But listeners, also, if you just want to call us and just ask us a question.
Yes.
Just ask us a question.
So you're saying now, Tony is saying now, if you call and leave a message at that number, 404-594-2247, and you just want advice, then he'll manage to come up with some advice for that, right? That's what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that's not what I'm saying.
That is what you're saying.
That's not what I said.
Okay. But listeners, if you do have a question,
If you have a question,
at least
please-
one of us will answer.
please don't, or both of us will answer.
That's what I just said.
That's what I said.
Anyway, So you could just call and vote on any previous episode as well as to who
Yeah.
is right,
Well,
or
Jill-
just offer a comment.
Jill, you need to wrap this show up, okay?
I told you that. I gave you
Rap.
the rap sign.
Yeah, rap.
Thank you, Gifford Ivan Cordova III for the music, Nick Zinke for the art. You've been listening to I'm Right.
I'm right.
I'm Jill Cox Cordova.
I'm Anthony Cordova.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.